Hello and welcome to the TID Water and Power Podcast. I'm your host, Constance Anderson, and on this month's episode, we're talking about TID's Customer Academy program. In 2022, TID started its Customer Academy program, an opportunity for customers to learn about the intricacies of TID operations and facilities. As we prepare for our fourth cohort, we continue to modify and expand this successful program. Later in the episode, I'll be joined by 3 past participants of the Customer Academy program to hear about their experience and takeaways. But first, I'm joined by TID Communications Specialist Lisa McMullen to discuss the origin of the program, how the program has evolved over time, and what to expect with next year's session. Lisa, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Great. So you actually previously joined us on episode 28 of the podcast, where we discussed our educational programs. For the listeners who haven't yet tuned into that episode, can you tell us about your background with the district?
Absolutely. I joined the district in 2020 as a communications specialist, and my role here is to develop new programs that will engage with customers and employees, like the Customer Academy program. And I also support our publications that we send out to our customers, like The Wire. And then I also get to work on our educational activities, working with school districts, taking our mobile education center out, and organizing our educator tour.
Okay, so to start, can you tell me what Customer Academy is and why TID decided to start the program?
Yeah, so Customer Academy is a 5-week customer engagement program. Our customers participate in 4 weeknight sessions and an all-day tour, and they get to learn about TID's history, our operations, and tour facilities. And I think you asked why we started the program?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at TID, we have a lot of ways to communicate with our customers. We are always wanting to share what we're doing here and how we do it. And a few ways we do that is like our podcast and our publications, but we really wanted an opportunity to have face-to-face interaction, to be able to share the district's key programs, really give our customers a behind-the-scenes look at what we do.
Excellent. And can you give us a little history of the program so far?
Sure. So a few years ago, we started researching similar programs, different Customer Academy ambassador programs, and looking at what might be a right fit for TID. So in the fall of 2022, we launched our first cohort, and we had 2 more in the spring of 2023 and 2024.
Great. And how has the program grown or evolved over the past 3 cohorts?
When we launched the program, we started small. Out of 30 applicants, we accepted 10 in the first year. And since we've expanded to around 20 participants in 2023 and 2024, and that seems to be a good number for us. It's a good size for engagement. It gives our participant an opportunity to ask the questions that they're interested in learning about, and it's also a good size that it's a manageable size for our tour.
And what have you seen year after year? Have application numbers gone up? Are there more people interested in the program?
Yeah, so we're really fortunate. Each year, our applicant pool has grown. I'd say about 15 each year, we're seeing an increase. So that's a wonderful thing that people are interested and they're hearing about the program. But the reality is we have more applicants than spots available, which is hard. But I will take this opportunity to give a plug to our operations and facilities tour. So this is a video that we have on our website. And so I always share that with those applicants that aren't able to get in the program, or perhaps the time commitment is too much for them. And so that's a good resource for them, where they get a little behind the scenes of our operations, and they'll actually hear from some of the presenters that participate in the Customer Academy.
Very good. And we certainly aren't trying to discourage anyone from applying for the program, because we are always looking at ways to be able to include more folks in the program each year. So stay tuned for more information on that. So tell us about the original cohort and what has changed since that first one.
Yeah, so in 2022, we launched a 4-week program. And after the first night, we quickly found out that just wasn't enough time. But I'll give kudos to our presenters and our participants that first year, because they stuck it out. I think the first night we were an hour over, and our presenters were really helpful in staying, and our customers just kept asking the questions. So anyhow, quickly we learned that we needed to expand. And so we are now a 5-week session.
Very
which
good.
seems to work good.
Excellent. Yeah, there's just a lot of information to be shared. So that was a quick realization, I feel like, that we just needed a little bit more time to get that in. So tell our listeners, if you will, what's the curriculum like? What do we cover in the Customer Academy?
Well, we cover a lot of ground in 5 sessions. That's for sure. So we cover the basics. So starting with where your water comes from to power and distribution. We have nightly tours each session. Our curriculum will vary depending on kind of hot topics or timeliness of things that are going on. So when we're in a drought, we'll always talk about our water operations, but the way we present the information may shift just based on what's happening in the world. And we also have our all-day facility tour, which is a really exciting thing that people are always thrilled to be a part of. This all-day facility tour takes our customers to different places that very few people and, quite honestly, employees have visited. Places like the Don Pedro Powerhouse and the LaGrange Dam.
And I understand that all-day tour is really of high interest to a lot of people. So I think it's important to make known that you have to attend every session in order to get to that final tour. Is that right?
That's correct. And I think, all of our participants have really gained a lot of information throughout every session, and they're applying to what they're seeing out in the field.
Absolutely. So what are the benefits to our customers in attending the Customer Academy and participating in the Academy?
Well, I would imagine that anyone that is applying to be a part of the Customer Academy is interested in learning about TID. So they'll definitely walk away with newfound knowledge. They're going to learn more than they probably ever could imagine about how TID does what it does. So that's, I'd say, the first thing. They're going to come out with a lot of knowledge. One of the side benefits that I've heard that some of our customers haven't been, they didn't sign on to the program thinking about this, but one of our sessions is covering our MyTID platform. And so our customers are getting insight into how they manage their own energy usage and how to check that. And that's kind of been a benefit as well. I think our customers are coming in wanting to learn about how we do what we do, and they're leaving also with some information that they could also take home and use for themselves.
And then just to clarify, the MyTID platform, that is actually our customer portal where they can log in and see information specific to their usage, to how to manage their bills, to what programs and services are available to help them as customers.
Absolutely. I'd say another added benefit to the Customer Academy for our customers, all of our customers that apply are TID customers, but some of them are working with organizations within our service territory. So I think there's been some professional benefits. We have some individuals that have gone through the program that actually work with TID on different related topics. And so they've left with a better understanding of how we manage our operations that might help them then work with our subject matter experts or our office a little bit different. I think that's been a benefit.
Sure. And I would imagine that folks would see that on both the electricity and the irrigation water side as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's flip that last question on its head. What are some of the benefits to TID in hosting this program?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that has benefited TID, which is the reason why we did it, is getting information out to our customers. So now we have around 50 incredibly informed and engaged customers. Those customers are now sharing their experience and their knowledge with their networks. We hear from customers all the time that, their neighbor attended the Customer Academy and they learned X, Y, and Z. And that's what we were really looking for when we launched this program. We really want to get as much information out about the district as we can. And there's no better way than having more informed individuals out in the community sharing about their experience and their knowledge.
What are some of the other benefits that the district has seen in hosting the program?
So we have individuals that I think come to the program with some sort of familiarity with TID. They have a understanding of what we do and how we do it. But what's been really interesting is those individuals and those that are coming in with not a great understanding of what we do, we're able to provide information that may be dispels some myths about TID or how we do things. And so that's been really eye-opening for customers that kind of maybe think they know how our operations work, and they are gaining better insight, which is just a benefit for everybody, I think.
All right. So we are on episode 42 of this podcast, and certainly we've had no shortage of topics to discuss. How are you able to distill everything that the district does down to select topics to build the curriculum for Customer Academy?
I think we have a lot of fun with that. We definitely start with the basics. So we want our customers that are participating to have a good understanding of the foundation of TID. So we look at the Water 101, Power 101, and then we build upon that. I shared before, there are some topics that are a little more timely, so we develop our curriculum that way. If there are some regulatory topics that we want to highlight, that'll be a focus for a year. We involve our presenters, our employees, quite a bit with the development of the presentation. So we have them work with us on the development of their content that they're presenting. And then that will evolve over time. So we consistently listen to the questions that are being asked by our customers each session, and we'll modify our presentations each year if there's some gap that we're seeing that we're missing. I mentioned that the program is something that our customers apply for. So within that application process, we ask our customers what it is that they want to learn and hear about. And so that helps us inform the content that we present. And then at the end of each program, we survey not only our presenters, but our participants and ask, did you learn what you were hoping to learn? Did you get out of the program what you were wanting to get out? And so then each year we modify the program accordingly. But like you said, there's so much that we could share. And so we just really try to distill that information to start with some foundation and then build upon that, and then give our customers the opportunity to ask the questions that they want to ask during each session.
Fantastic. And I want to kind of stay on our presenters for a second, because our presenters are actually all TID employees. Is that right?
Yes, they're incredible. We have I'd say around 30 TID staff that help us present and give the tours, which is largely happening outside the work hours. And so we really couldn't hold this program without the help of our subject matter experts that are giving of their time and their expertise for this program.
Excellent. And how do you think that better informs the Customer Academy? As far as, you, Brandon, and myself know a little bit about all aspects of the district. We could probably lead Customer Academy sessions, but what kind of a difference does it make to have our subject matter experts leading the nightly sessions?
Well, I think that's very generous of you to say. I think there's such great value with having our subject matter experts, our staff that are actually doing the work each day. Giving them an opportunity to showcase the work that they're doing. And really, the thing that kind of strikes me each year is hearing back from our participants. And, we consistently hear from the customers that are in the program that they're in awe of the knowledge of our subject matter experts, that they really appreciate the transparency that comes through during each presentation. Our customers can ask any questions that they want, and our presenters are at the ready to answer. And the other thing is that there's quite a sense of pride that comes through when you have the people that are doing the work share what they're doing to our customers. It kind of makes us a little bit more than a bill, on the customer end. It really is something special.
Excellent. And I think you're right. I think we could pull it off, but I think our subject matter experts do a much better job. All right. So the program has been really well received thus far. When are we hosting the next Customer Academy?
Yeah, well, we're getting ready for it now. Our next cohort will be in spring 2025. The program will start on March 1st. Our applications are open now. They opened on October 1st, and our interested customers can go to our webpage, tid.org/Customer Academy, to get more information on the program. And also there's a link to the application form as well.
So you said application period opened October 1st. When does it close? When's the last day to submit an application for the program?
It'll close on January 6th, 2025.
And can you give us any tidbits on what sort of changes might be made to the upcoming spring 2025 program?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're constantly making improvements and refining the program. So we'll continue to do that based on the feedback that we receive from our participants and just different timely topics. But one exciting thing, as we talked about having more applicants than we can accept, we are actually going to be exploring an option for a daytime academy this year. So individuals that are applying for Customer Academy 2025 are applying for the evening sessions. But as they apply, there'll be a prompt for them to indicate if they're available for a daytime academy as well. So based on that response, we'll evaluate if we can also hold a daytime academy concurrently.
Okay. And specifically, what time of day would that academy take place?
Yeah, we're looking at holding the daytime academy from 9 a.m. to noon.
Okay, very good. All right. So in just a minute, I'm going to be talking with some past Customer Academy participants. But before we let you go, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I think from our viewpoint, we've been really impressed, and we appreciate that people have wanted to sign up for the academy. As you share, you're going to be speaking with some of our, I guess we'll call them alumni, and they continue to remain engaged. And I think from our stance, we want to be a resource for our community and our customers. And so this has just been a good program, I think, for us to grow that those opportunities to engage with our customers.
Fantastic. Well, Lisa, thanks again for joining us and telling us all about the Customer Academy.
Thanks a lot.
I'm now joined on the podcast by Steve Lay, who participated in the first Customer Academy cohort. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, my name is Steve Lay. I am a Turlock resident and a residential TID customer. I've been in the Central Valley for about 10 years. I've grown up all over the United States, from Illinois to South Carolina to Ohio. But most of my life I've been in California. I was born in San Dimas. And in 2011, I met my wife in the Central Coast. And since then, we moved to Turlock and decided to start a family here. And other than that, professionally, I am in property development. So commercial, industrial properties, we'll go ahead and entitle them, do the planning, work with the city, the counties, utility companies to make sure we have power to these sites. And before my current role, I was with Stanislaus County Public Works in the design team, so road work, that kind of stuff. And prior to that, with Odell Engineering for a couple years. So basically anything civil, construction, utilities, water related, all that kind of stuff interests me. I love the outdoors, dogs, barbecue. I recently took up fly fishing, but
nice.
Terrible fly fisherman.
Very good. If I may ask, what landed you here in Turlock?
Turlock, really it was at a career fair. There was a certain company that really piqued my interest, and they were very vertically integrated, had a lot of potential for different types of jobs and career interests. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do out of college, and this particular employer really hit it all for me.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Okay, good. And obviously you stayed, so it must have worked out for you.
Yep, been here for over 10 years and
great.
No plans to move.
Good. Well, thank you for that background. It kind of shows that you bring a unique perspective to Customer Academy as a participant from both the residential customer side as well as the professional side.
Absolutely.
So we'll jump into that a little bit as we go along. But let's start with what prompted you to apply for the Customer Academy?
There were several reasons that attracted me to the Customer Academy. One of them was work related too. I'm always working with TID staff on planning projects, making sure that before purchasing or starting on a project, that do we have power to the site? What kind of irrigation rights do we have? Are there utilities that need to be relocated? So it was good I wanted the opportunity to see from a utility operator's perspective, what it takes to make these projects work. And it helped me in the planning aspect as well. Another reason that piqued my interest or that I wanted to join the Customer Academy is in 2022, when this first was coming out and I heard about it, there was a lot of hype about blackouts, rolling brownouts, those sorts of things. So electrical, I guess, reliability was in question for these utility companies. And at the time, it's something I really took for granted. I knew that TID always would figure it out. We don't have to worry about those blackouts over here. And like I said, it's something I took for granted. But after talking with friends and family that are in other customers of other utility companies, I hear about having to plan out during these heat waves, how they're going to manage without power on. So I wanted the opportunity to talk to TID and just see what is it that TID is doing right and what's going on behind the scenes to make sure that our power stays on.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very good point. I think it's something that a lot of folks take for granted. So long as we keep doing what we're doing well, you'll flip your switch and your lights will come on and there'll be irrigation water in the canals. So something that a lot of people probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about, but a key purpose for the Customer Academy to give folks the opportunity to find out more about these topics. Was there any other areas of interest or topics that you particularly wanted to learn about that you thought might come out of TID's Customer Academy?
Yeah, another topic that was hot and still is very hot is electrification, right? So the government and the regulations of requiring a certain amount of clean energy a lot of times is associated with EV chargers, right? So it might seem convenient and easy to buy an electric car and just start charging your car, but it's really not as easy as just flipping a switch and having all these cars on the road being charged and having the infrastructure there.
Sure.
So yeah, with electrification, I really wanted to hear from TID. What are you guys doing to plan for this? What kind of concerns do you have? Is it possible? What do you have to do for your infrastructure, reconductoring, all that good stuff? What kind of planning has to go into it? So it's something that interested me, and I wanted to see how it was all going to pan out.
Awesome. Very good. Well, I hope you got some of the answers you were looking for.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. We won't give any of those answers away right now because, of course, we want more people to sign up for Customer Academy. So they'll have to join the cohort and participate to get the real details.
I've spoken a lot about electricity to this point, but I haven't really mentioned the whole other side of TID, irrigation, right? So
sure.
Another thing was droughts, right? All the legislation, in the last decade, we've had the droughts, and what are we doing to make sure that we've got the water? Essentially, TID has this, they're in the situation where they have to predict the weather, It's true. How are they going to manage the dams and the water releases, and how are they navigating the political environment, that kind of stuff. So for all those reasons, it really interested me. I thought it would be a great opportunity to join that academy.
Awesome. And we know that's something that's very cyclical where, we've had a couple good water years the last few years, but we know before long, drought will come around again. So we have to manage for all weather years. Would you say there were any standout experiences for you during the academy?
Another key takeaway was just the sheer amount of staff involvement and their excitement with all the different sessions and their related career overpaths. They were just really excited to be there. They were very passionate about their job. And the fact that staff was able to, willing to stay after hours, each of the sessions was, I think, starting at 5:30 or 6. So a lot of TID staff staying after hours just tells me, how much they care about their job. And I want to say in every session, there was at least one point where they would make it very evident that at the core of every decision they make, everything that they do, they really, really try to keep customer rates low. And because it was reinstated so many times, so many different ways, when I left, it really stuck with me that TID really does they work their tail off to keep the customer rates low. And that really stuck with me.
Awesome.
There's a lot of them. I love the field trips. Those were fun. But one of the sessions, I believe the Customer Academy, we were the first of the public to go into what they call the control room. So this control room, it's a large room. Think of multiple monitors all throughout the wall. I guess this is kind of like what you'd think of a Wall Street trading center would look like, right? On one side, you might have live power rates. So TID is constantly buying and selling power. So having this real-time data available right then allows them to make these informed decisions, like buying at the right time, selling at the right time, making sure they're buying solar, geothermal, whatever is the best decision at that time. So all these monitors giving operators the current visibility, that was really impressive. You could tell it was really state of the art. And then on the other side of the room, you've got even more monitors, and you can see like a live map of all of TID's territory, and you can see where there's power outages, which obviously there weren't many. You can see who was live, which blocks had power, which didn't. But if there ever was a power outage, 24/7, people are monitoring these live screens and telling, okay, if this block went out of power, you're not waiting on a phone call for someone to tell you that they're out. They can dispatch live and have someone go out and fix it in the middle of the night, hopefully before anyone even knows power was off.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that was a really cool experience, seeing that control room.
Right on. All right. What would you tell someone who is thinking about applying for the Academy?
If you're thinking about it, or if you're on the fence, I would encourage you to apply or scope it out. It will exceed your expectations. I will tell you that. Plus, they cater really, really good food for dinner. So there's
another bonus
benefit. But I will say, if it is a time commitment, right? You're going to do 4 or 5 sessions. I don't know how many it is, but I think it was 4 at the time I did it. So you've got to really be able to commit to doing all those sessions, including the field trip, because the way TID presents it, on each session, it really rolls into the next one, and it's a really good sequential flow, and they did a really good job tying it all together. So it's not some kind of, it's not a program where you can just kind of pick and choose, do the first session and then the third. You've really got to experience it all to get the full effect of it.
So tell us a little bit about how your experience with the TID Customer Academy has assisted you in your professional world.
That is a great question. I do work very closely with TID staff, like I said earlier, on a lot of these planning projects. Mm-hmm. So I work a lot with folks like Manjot Gill, Dave, Justin, Ben, Todd in the irrigation side, Analesh, all those folks. And I've been working with those folks together since my days at Stanislaus County. So it's been years, but I will say that all these guys have been very instrumental in the success of our projects and have worked extremely hard to make sure that we get power on time, and they're always there to help us out. So I also hear the horror stories of other utility companies, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I've been part of those stories too, where you want to plan and have a project go live on a certain date, but then you find out that there's a transformer shortage or there's not enough capacity at that location. So you've got to do the planning analysis and figure out when you can get power there. And in some cases, not TID, but in other utility companies, you're waiting 18 months to 24 months to get power. And we've never had that issue.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But yeah, the Customer Academy, back to your question, it was a great opportunity to really understand TID's challenges in the planning and the analysis side. So it was a good forum to discuss how TID goes around the planning and then streamline the process so I can better understand what goes into it. And I could get better, more realistic expectations of how long things take.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay.
But I will strongly recommend the Customer Academy to anyone in public works or if you're in development. I think you benefit from it.
Excellent. Okay. All right. What particular knowledge or learning from the Customer Academy have you shared with your network, personal, professional, or otherwise?
I do share things like the rebates. I learned a lot, and it's saved on a couple of our recent industrial buildings for the LED lighting rebate. We were able to save a lot of money there. And then also with the EV charger rebates. So those kind of, I took a lot of those kind of things out of the Academy for professionally. And then with my neighbors, if you can't tell by now, I am a TID advocate, truly. So I do try to get my neighbors involved as well. And
there you go. And we appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right. So as a TID residential electric customer, how has the Academy informed your experience and interaction with the district on that level?
Honestly, every month when I open up my TID bill or see it on my TID, I'll look at the bill and I just am truly thankful that I'm part of a district, and honestly proud to be in this district because it's so much, the rates are so much cheaper than it could be in other districts as well. And I know after going through the Customer Academy, like I said before, TID staff really does everything they can to keep rates low. So I'm appreciative of that.
Awesome. All right. Would you say there was a specific moment from the Academy that really stood out to you?
The field trip day was really cool. It was on a Saturday, and there were a lot of really good sites. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably say the LaGrange Dam. It was pretty spectacular. There's a lot of history in that dam as well, and having the ability to get access to the back end of that dam and getting to walk up there and see everything that we were able to see was pretty amazing. Then there's got to be an honorable mention to the Don Pedro Dam as well, because that was an impressive engineering feat and it was cool to hear about TID's plans to revamp that facility and make it more state-of-the-art. So I know that there's a lot of things in motion there. That was fun to hear about.
And it's very interesting that you point out those two, because they are such key facilities for TID. But you have LaGrange that was completed in 1893 and still serves the exact purpose for which it was intended in the exact same way. And you have Don Pedro, a much more modern facility that is still, even as you said, getting an upgrade now so that it can continue to do what it does for the next 50 years or so. So to have the two, both so rich in history, but in very different places in time, it's kind of fun to see both of them on the same day.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Well, honestly, you are exactly the type of person that we're looking for in a Customer Academy participant. Someone who's interested, who's looking for that knowledge, but then someone who will take that learning back and share it with their friends, their family, their network. Use that information to help them professionally, help TID work with them professionally. So on so many levels, we're thrilled to have had you as a participant. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think it says a lot about TID, because I think it's amazing that TID is putting themselves out there and putting themselves in a vulnerable spot like this with the community, and actually out there promoting it and allowing the customers to come back and ask questions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. We love the questions. We love the participation that we've had, and yeah, I think you're right. It's not something that a lot of other utilities would take on, but we're striving for greater and greater transparency. We want our customers to be in the know as to how TID does what they do, and that we do work to keep rates as low as possible while still maintaining reliable electric service. So, and irrigation service for that matter. We appreciate having you on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'm now joined on the podcast by Marin Pitt, who is part of our second cohort of Customer Academy. Marin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Constance. It's great to be here.
All right. If you would, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I came to Turlock initially as a student at Stan State and lived here for a few years and then moved away, but came back to more than 20 years ago to raise my girls in this community. And I don't live too far away from here. I've worked for the city of Turlock in various capacities, mostly in economic development, but now I serve with the Manufacturers Council of the Central Valley, whose members are some of TID's largest users.
Very good. And what prompted you to apply for the Customer Academy?
I think I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always curious. And much like with my role with the city of Turlock, people don't appreciate things like infrastructure, which means when you flush your toilet, the water flows. And when you turn your light switch on, the electricity actually does come on. And so it's always important to me to try and understand what happens behind the scenes in those services that make our lives easier, that no one sees what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And truly, that's exactly the type of customer that we look forward to welcoming into Customer Academy, is that person that comes in with that curiosity and who wants to understand better how it is that we do what we do. So thank you for having that thirst for knowledge. So what would you say was the most surprising thing you learned during the TID Customer Academy?
I think it would have to be two things. One of them is the depth that science plays in what the district does, especially in hydrology and understanding weather behavior and how they manage the water flows, the anticipated rainfalls, what that means to farmers and how they come up and calculate how much water farmers may get for the growing season. And that and the electric grid, to understand all the different layers of the electric grid and how that all worked.
There's definitely a lot of interconnection there. As independent as TID is, we are certainly connected to a much larger framework that definitely is impactful on our system. Yeah. Good takeaway. What would you tell someone who is thinking about applying for the Academy?
Well, I think that anybody who's a user of power, or even someone who gets their irrigation water, or now with TID's partnership with the city of Turlock, your drinking water, anyone who's really cares about understanding where those kind of resources come from really should participate. I think it's important. It makes us better consumers to understand the challenges, the benefits of living where we do, and how, we're not subject to rolling brownouts, and water still comes out of our tap because of the partnerships that TID has had with the city of Turlock and the city of Ceres to provide drinking water, as well as all the irrigated crops.
Very good. Were there things that you didn't fully appreciate about TID before participating in the Academy?
I think it was the complexity of each of the systems, and to understand how many of these pieces and parts all have to fit together to make the system run. During the middle of the Customers Academy, the river was rising. They had already opened irrigation season, and the districts have a commitment to the city of Modesto to keep the Tuolumne River at a certain level. And they do have bypass systems, which I didn't know about. And they were trying to open up different gates and allow more water into the irrigation system to keep Modesto basically from flooding. But also, too, that the irrigation system's not designed to actually outflow what it brings into the system. It's designed to be distributed and very much not wasted going out the bottom end.
Right.
And so, to me, that was a perfect example of how the complexities all have to fit together in order to make the system run, and how everyone has to really understand each one of those parts and how to manage those systems and the people who run them.
Absolutely. Definitely a lot of internal coordination. Now, as you mentioned, you work closely with a number of TID customers professionally, but you are also a TID customer yourself. Would you say that you engage differently with TID, either on a residential or a professional level, since participating in the Academy?
I definitely understand a lot more to the acronyms and the lingo, for sure.
There's a lot of that, that's
and
for sure.
Much like any government program or whatever, there's, a zillion alphabet soup acronyms. And so I think I have a better understanding of those. But I will say that, the staff that I've worked with at TID, whether it's through the Academy or personally or professionally, are all very professional in what they do, but they're also very customer centered in how they treat people and how they provide service, whether you're a big, huge user of theirs or just a residential user.
No, it's good to hear. What part of the Academy, or just your learning about the district, have you most shared with your network?
In my current capacity with Manufacturers Council, we're very involved in the ZEV movement, the zero emission vehicle movement, and the conversion especially of commercial vehicles and heavyweight trucks to electricity or some alternative fuel. Mm-hmm. And it has helped me immensely to understand the infrastructure that supports our region in terms of what is available in terms of electric bandwidth to assist some of our largest users, and whether that's drayage trucks or it's shuttles or whatever it may be, to understand how what TID provides in terms of electric service can help us, but also to understanding that it has limitations, and what maybe those are. And it's really about to further an educated dialogue, because there's folks at the California Air Resources Board that a lot of this sounds like a great idea, but they really don't have any idea whatsoever about how the electric grid works. And I was shocked to know that power is generated through this huge Western United States grid, and it's traded on 24-hour cycles as well as like 5-minute cycles. And so if people think that there's power that goes out into the power lines and it just gets wasted out there in some outer space, that is a complete misconception, because that's not the truth. And when you understand when it's generated or it's managed in 5-minute intervals, it does really bring into focus that there is at some point a limited bandwidth for expansion, and have to understand how that's all going to work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very true. Was there a specific moment from the Customer Academy that really stood out to you?
I would say that the technology, especially standing in the control room, and that was a whoa. And it's funny because that building actually used to be the police department dispatch building.
Right.
And to see it then, and then to see it converted for a whole new use with a whole different new kind of technology, but in essence doing the same thing of running a system remotely, and to the benefit of the people of Turlock, which is very impressive.
That's a great comparison. I knew the original use of the building, but I had never kind of connected the dots in that way, that it is very much still serving a similar purpose for the not just the city of Turlock now, but for all TID customers. All right. So now that you've gone through the Customer Academy, would you say the time that you committed to participation was worth it?
Absolutely. And I could have done another 3 or 4 sessions.
We probably could have filled another 3 or 4 sessions, to be honest.
Each Wednesday evening when we got done, I mean, it was a lot. There was a lot packed into each evening worth of information. I still laugh at all of the farmers that were in the class, and they loved and oohed and awed all over the TID fleet of heavy equipment out there. I'm not sure I was as enamored with it as they were, but there was a lot of oohing and awing, which I thought was kind of cute. But I absolutely would do it again. And I think that there's a real role for that to play, for people to really understand and engage in a productive way in understanding where their power and water come from.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you kind of have as a takeaway of the Academy that we haven't yet chatted about?
I think that the vision of those that started TID over 100 and some odd years ago, of taking this sandy little patch in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley that flooded periodically or often, and making it some of the most productive farmland in the world because it's irrigated and it has access to water, was visionary beyond, I think, even their wildest imagination, if they could see it today. And the kind of prosperity that it has brought, and as well as the kind of industry that it is also sprouted up of. And we are very much an ag, food processing based local economy here. And for TID to be able to not only provide water to the dairy farmers to grow corn, or to the tomato farmers to grow tomatoes, or whatever it may be that now, or almonds, that now we have those value added products like the Blue Diamonds and the Dairy Farmers America and Land O'Lakes and California Dairies, that all have come here and grown up here because there is water to support those agricultural commodities being produced. And it makes us truly a very rich spot on the earth.
Absolutely. I actually get goosebumps just listening to you talk about it, because it's so true. And the impacts are tenfold, right? There's the agriculture base, there's the production, but there's the manufacturing, there's the distribution, there's the, that goes so much beyond when you're talking about the magnitude of the economic development that has blossomed here because, as you say, the vision of our founders so many years ago.
And who would have thought 100 and some odd years ago, and I'm sure you have the exact date, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but, what a legacy to leave,
right?
And how much we've all benefited from it.
Absolutely. 1887, 137 years ago. Not bad. Awesome. Well, Maren, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having your perspective on the Customer Academy. We're thrilled that you took so much away from it, and love that you will continue to encourage people to participate.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for the opportunity, and then also for coming to get to chat about it today.
Very good. Now joining us is a participant from Customer Academy's second cohort, Earl Herringa. Earl, thanks for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, you already know my name's Earl Herringa. I'm 61 years old. I've married to my lovely wife, Marilyn, and I have two sons, 23 and 25 years old. They're also in the ag industry. Oh, I didn't mention that I'm a dairy farmer. I was born and raised in Southern California, and I moved here in 1992.
So you moved here in 1992, so a TID customer then for 32 years. What city do you reside in, if you
I'm
don't
in
mind?
Denair.
In Denair. Okay, very good. So what prompted you to apply for the TID Customer Academy?
I always had kind of a fascination for electricity ever since I was a young kid. I don't know, I was really young, and I stuck a bobby pin in an outlet once, and
No, you didn't. Are you pulling my leg?
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh, goodness.
And it made me respect electricity, and I was always fascinated by it. I've read a book before, and it was about how they had brought in power. It was called Big Creek. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's near Fresno.
Okay.
Back in the 30s, they developed hydroelectric and penstocks and brought power to Southern California, Los Angeles, actually.
Okay.
So, and then I had seen the Irrigationist, the little film that you guys put out. And I love the history of the area, and I love engineering, and I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm glad to see that since your early experience, you have not gone back to toying with electricity.
No.
Good. What would you say was the most surprising thing you learned during Customer Academy?
Probably the hydroelectric power, how it isn't considered a renewable resource was one of the biggest things. And not all the power comes from the hydroelectric. There's a lot of other avenues where they get their power, like the turbine plant,
Mm-hmm.
the Walnut Energy plant, and solar and wind. I didn't know that. I thought it was just all generated by hydroelectric.
Okay.
And by the turbines. But I didn't know about any of the other power, where they were bringing it in from out of state, and how they were exchanging power and buying power on the open market to try to get us the best rates. That was pretty fascinating to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that, talking about urban myths, I think that's something that a lot of people kind of have that misconception that Don Pedro generates the majority of the energy that we use here in TID's district, when really, like you said, we're constantly importing energy. We do a lot of generation here in our territory, but we import energy, we sell energy, like you mentioned, to create the best economic situation for the district.
Yes, and also that it's a community-owned Power District. I don't think I knew that before. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's true. A lot of people don't ever really think about that. So that's something that we're really trying to communicate is the benefits of being publicly owned or community owned. Yeah, very good. Okay. So what would you say to someone who is considering applying for the TID Customer Academy?
Oh, I'd say do it. Yes. I mean, I love every part of it, every minute of it. I was excited to be here on the next week to just to listen and see what's going on. And if anybody had any interest at all in electricity and the water, I definitely recommend it.
Oh, that's great. We love to hear that. And I think that's something that was always very encouraging to us putting on the program was even on those nights when we might have gone a little bit over in our timing, we didn't quite get you guys out on time. The classes were still asking questions and still interested and still really engaged. So we knew that we weren't boring you. We were keeping you entertained and engaged. And that's good to hear.
Yeah, and I think I talked to you about this before. Instead of calling it the academy, I think you should call it the experience, because the academy just sounds like a boot camp, or there's going to be a test at the end or something like that.
And I love that, the TID experience.
Yes.
Like, I feel like we could really do some creative marketing around that.
Yeah.
That's a great suggestion. We will definitely give you credit for the rebrand. Wonderful. Okay. So coming from an ag background, is there something that stood out to you about TID's power operations?
Well, not to mention that I think they have like some of the best rates in the state. Second best rates, is that true?
Pretty darn close. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what kind of was a deal breaker for us when we first moved up here, that and the water, availability of water, the ditch water and the power.
Okay.
Well, I think I told you before, I grew up in Southern California on a dairy, and we knew the area back then, it wasn't going to be there, long term because of all the development coming in. So we always were looking at where are we going to go from here? I mean, we looked at high desert area. We looked in Visalia area, and actually we did buy some ground in Pixley. And we had relatives that lived up here. And one day, it was my uncle called my dad and said, hey, this piece of ground is going to be coming up for sale here. And he said, it's a pretty large chunk. And he said, there's not that many big pieces available anymore. And he said, it is in TID Power and TID Water. And he asked him, well, what does that mean? He said, well, TID has some of the best rates in the state, and also you have ditch water. And he says, in fact, the ditch water runs right through the property. And he said, you should really take a look at this. And my dad and my mom came up, and they went with him and took a look at that, and they pretty much made a deal right there.
Wow.
I mean, they wanted it, and ended up buying this piece here in Denair and then selling the other one.
Okay. So we won out over Pixley.
Oh, yes.
Well, good. We're glad to have you. Was there something that stood out to you then on the water side specifically, knowing that you came in with kind of an understanding of how that side of the house operates?
I think water is a huge issue right now. I mean, more than ever. And they've always said way in the past, water is going to be gold. And it's starting to look that way. There's a lot of areas where they're relying on groundwater, and with the Sigma and everything else going on, I mean, to have secure water it's huge.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Was there a specific moment from the academy that really stood out to you?
Everybody was so knowledgeable. I mean, you could ask anybody any question and they'd have an answer for you. And the people, I mean, they're great people. I mean, over the years I've met, ditch tenders and technicians working on the power poles and everything else. And I don't think I've ever met anybody that I didn't like.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might be a little biased, but I too think that we've got some pretty good folks around here. Oh, that's great. I'm glad that that's the impression you took away. So now that you've gone through the Customer Academy, would you say that the time that you committed to the Academy was worth it?
Oh, definitely. Yes. I would do it all over again if they'll take me.
Well, if you apply again, maybe we'll see you back in one of our cohorts. Oh, that's great.
Oh, yeah. I've known I don't know. Yeah, farmers. And a piece of land would come up, and the first thing is it in TID? And, well, no. Well, then, yeah, forget about it.
Okay.
I've heard that several times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I think you also have a story about you lost power at your property once. There was a big tree that had maybe fallen over in a storm?
Yes. Yeah. We had a big storm come through, and we had some trees near power line they've been there for, 50 years. And the tree fell over, hit the wires, took out the pole. I mean, it's raining, the wind's blowing, all the power went out, and it's just like, what are we going to do now? And I called TID and told them what happened, and it's just like, they're never going to be able to get near this thing because it's in a pen with cows in it, and it's muddy. And I thought, we'll be lucky if we have power again in a week. And they came out that night and with a 8-wheel drive truck, and they backed in there, and they brought all the help they needed, and they had that power restored in just a matter of hours.
Wow.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. I couldn't believe it. I mean, all the equipment and people that came out to take care of this. And I mean, it was, 6-7 o'clock at night in the winter. It was cold, and they took care of it. Yeah. And I mean, I hear stories from other places where people are literally waiting for years to get a transformer put up to power some addition that they have, and nothing's happening.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. We did put in a new service not long ago, and they called me and they said, hey, you guys can lock in the price on this transformer. It was during COVID because we don't know what's going to happen. We think the prices are going to go up. If you'd like to pay for it right now, we'll hold on to it for you. And I just like, I'm going to take it now because I need it anyway.
Sure.
And when it was time to put it in, they called me and they scheduled, and they had a delay. And they called me and told me, we're going to be delayed. And it's just like, oh, great, I'm going to have to wait months. And it's just like, no, just a couple days. So, yeah, I thought that was great. I mean, the communication that they had with us was just, it was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great to hear.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, Earl, I think that kind of wraps up my questions for you. And unless there was anything else that we missed that you wanted to make mention of.
I can't think of anything offhand.
Okay, very good. Well, I'm thrilled to hear that you enjoyed your Customer Academy experience, and I hope that you continue to tell all your friends about the program and encourage them to apply and participate as well.
I will.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the TID Water and Power Podcast. You can find TID on Facebook at facebook.com/TurlockID, on Instagram and Twitter at TurlockID, and on LinkedIn as the Turlock Irrigation District. I'm your host, Constance Anderson. We'll see you again next time.